All right, welcome back to Politics and Movies. This is a cool episode. This is a good episode. This is Superman 2025. Yes, the James Gunn one. Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be some people like, well, you're going to start with that one. Oh, you're some kind of James Gunn shill. Yes, yes, I am.
And a Suicide Squad.
Yeah. But I mean, I mean, his Suicide Squad is so. I mean, if that's really that was his proof of concept for DC, right? Like, because that was such an improvement on every level of
Yeah,
the David Ayer one. And I mean, my God, like you can tell, like he specifically addressed, specific problems with the David Ayer Suicide Squad. You can tell, like right from the first scene. But of course, I won't get into that because we're not talking about that movie. We're talking about this movie, Superman 2025. Of course, the original title is Superman Legacy, but then, I guess James Gunn decided, fuck it, we're going all out. This is a full reboot. Uh, and you know what? We can briefly talk about, like the Christopher Reeve Superman if you want. Like it is relevant. Like we could do a whole episode on that at some point anyway. We can talk about Man of Steel. You know what? I really don't care. Because as far as I'm concerned, you know, as long as we're talking about Superman, it's on topic for this one.
yeah, whatever.
All right.
Yeah,
No, no, that's fair. Anyway, right off the bat, I got one thing that I want to get out of the way. We have only covered one other movie with an end credit sequence, and we didn't really talk about it. We referenced it a little bit, but we didn't get into detail on it. And that was, of course, The Iron Giant last year.
I didn't even. Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, I barely remembered that as an end credit sequence.
I mean, that's fair, but it's it's important. It means like that, Superman's not actually. I mean, Superman. I mean, the Iron Giant's not actually dead, and he comes
Same
back.
thing.
Yeah, I mean, fair. He thinks he's Superman. Well, he's trying. He aspires to be Superman, right? That's the real thing. But anyway, yeah. So it really completes like I know in a few episodes people have joked about like the Jesus metaphor. No, it's really in that one because he comes back at the end, right? Like that end credit sequence is important because it completes the Jesus metaphor, right? So,
Amen.
amen. But anyway, this movie has two end credit sequences. And neither of them are like what you'd normally get from like a post credit sequence. Like normally you'd have like something that would like try to get you to go to the next movie, get tickets, whatever. uh you know like, oh, I'm gonna go on Fandango and pre-order it, whatever. 3 years ahead of time, that'll be a feature at some point, right? But anyway, like, yeah, like normally it's like a little teaser, right? You get what I'm saying.
Yeah,
But in this case, it just adds to the flavor of the movie we already have. It's not like you could, but now you could say the little Supergirl bit at the end of the movie proper. Yeah, that's the teaser. That's the real teaser for Supergirl. Which, if we're being honest, that's why we're doing this, because Supergirl's coming out pretty soon, and I'm excited about that. But okay, but I keep getting off track. Yeah, the two mid-credit sequences we've got, you know, Superman just sitting next to Crypto on the moon, and it feels very like All-Star Superman, and of course that's probably very intentional, right?
yeah. Just looking down on the world, very grounded, and just
Very
breathing it
serene and
all in,
peaceful.
serene.
Yeah, yeah. It's a sweet moment, especially after all the chaos and shit of the movie, right?
Yeah, and it's very reflexive of like who Superman is as a character.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely expands on his character a little bit. It's a nice little showcase. And it's a nice little moment for Crypto too, because we don't see him calm and like just kind of, just chilling for most of the movie. He's but I do appreciate that about how James Gunn wrote Crypto, that he didn't like try to make him like the comic cartoony version. Like he's a dog, right? At the end of the day,
Yeah.
he's a dog with super strength, but he's a dog, and
Well,
I like
he's also an extension of Supergirl's character,
yeah,
personifying her whimsiness and her aloofness as well.
right, and we see that in the only scene with them together, right? And
Yeah.
that's and of course, four is like, oh, no wonder she has, no wonder he has behavioral issues. And it's like, yeah, and it's funny.
Yep.
And of course, Alan Tudyk is fantastic as the robots in this.
Yeah, it's funny because it's like a small role, but he still absolutely nails it.
Hell yeah. And yeah, the one last thing is the post credit sequence is like it's kind of cute. It's Mr. Terrific has like stitched a building back together, and Superman comes over and says, oh, it's a little off, and Mr. Terrific is like, yeah, and he's sullen about it. And it's another cute character moment. And yeah, like usually you'll have like one of those in a like in an MCU movie, say, but like you won't have two, right? Like
Yeah,
usually
no,
at least one of them will be a teaser.
yeah. I think of like the Ant-Man and the Wasp, where one of them is like the ant playing the drums, and then the other one is like setting up for the end game stuff.
Right. And that's partially why Edgar Wright, got pissed and left the Ant-Man project, because he was like, I don't set up another movie. I want to focus on the movie we're doing here. And in a
Yeah.
way, that's really sad, because we Edgar Wright would have done a fantastic job, and we know that, but it wasn't meant to be. One more thing, I forgot to introduce the movie.
Oh yeah. You didn't even introduce me, which is the funniest like part
Well,
is.
that's fair. All right, we got Mike and Friends.
we're,
It's
we're
politics,
speed
behaviors,
running
and intelligence.
this.
Yeah. I
We
know
got
it's
it for
my fault.
friends. We got the Superman.
Superman, 2025 American superhero film, the first superhero film we've covered on this show. Uh,
Oh really?
yes, written unless you count the Iron Giant, but that's not an IP, so I don't. Uh, anyway, written in, well, yeah, it was based on a book, but like that doesn't really count in my opinion.
You
Uh,
always detract yourself like,
I'm
away
just
from what
clarifying. I'm just trying to
I know.
clarify.
I know.
But yeah, I know I'm getting a little sidetracked, and it doesn't really matter, but that's okay. Anyway, this was written and directed by James Gunn, of course. It is a reboot of the Superman film series. Stars David Corenswet and Rachel Brosnahan, Nicholas Holt, Edie Gathegi, Anthony Kerrigan, Nathan Fillion, and Isabella Merced. And right off the bat, Billy, what thoughts do you have about this movie? What do you want to get into first?
Yeah. I would just love to get into the characters. I think that's where James Gunn shines the best is with just casting and getting characters down. And really, understanding their personality traits very well and like capturing that in a movie and putting these characters like in wacky situations and just seeing what they will do. Like uh Guy Gardner, distinctly different from Superman. Lex Luthor, a distinct foil to Superman. Like all these characters just are so unique, so well defined, and I really think that we have like a really good capture of masculinity and different aspects of masculinity in this movie, especially using like Superman as our point of reference for a good, kind-hearted human being, and I say that with like, you know, with irony and knowing everything about him. Like he is a human being, but he is just the kindest, best person there with the moral compass.
We don't have to get into identity politics yet, but he identifies as a human being, which is very
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah,
Because I
yeah,
think this is the first Superman movie where we've had that, as far as I can recall.
yeah. Definitely, as far as I can think of, too.
Yeah,
I think it even goes so far as like them making sure that he in the beginning he's identifying with his um his uh biological parents to a
biological. Yeah,
degree.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because they're the ones who have the message for him to be good and everything. But then that gets distorted when Lex leaks out what we think is the truth. It could definitely not be the truth. But Lex leaks out what their communication was, that
I mean, we don't
he's
really have
not.
any doubt about that, though. It was confirmed by all the top linguists.
I
Even
mean, yeah, they could be
even
wrong.
Terrific was like, yeah, but like even Terrific was like, if these guys say it's true, at least everyone's gonna think it's true, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So it's
yeah,
like to an extent, it doesn't really matter. But continue.
yeah. But like, despite his parents not wanting him there for the beautiful, like, uh, selfless purpose that he's actually there for, he still continues onward, like identifying with his dad's words, and you know still wants to serve a selfless purpose on earth to be a good person. And honestly,
I'm
I
sorry.
think
I'm sorry. Clarify. You mean his adopted father,
yeah,
Jonathan Kent?
yeah, sorry,
Okay. Yeah. Please, please, Billy.
his real
God.
adopted father.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. I'm just
Well,
saying
there's
you do
so
stuff
much.
like that sometimes, and I'm just gonna call you out on it for this one because I feel like we need to get this right.
Okay, wow, that was a loaded statement.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to make you aware, and I did it in a shitty way. Sorry, it's not the first time.
All right.
Probably not the last either.
Well, anyway, yes, his adopted father's words, stick with him, and he remembers what he's fighting for because at the his morals aren't connected to you know being from Krypton or being from his biological parents. His morals are just him, and I think that's why seeing Lex as his foil is so brings him so much pain, and like he's so
Yeah.
distraught over it because here we are in his first confrontation with Lex, where Lex has stolen his dog.
Yeah.
He's gone into his home, like fuck shit up, and he messed up with the robot, Alan Tudyk's character, and you know he can't really understand why someone would be that petty.
Right, right. That's where his righteous anger, I think, initially stems from. And of course, you know, uh, Lex mistakes it as like rage because
Yeah,
he is projecting, right? That's
yes, for
what he
sure.
mostly does throughout this movie,
Yeah,
is project his emotions onto others, especially Superman.
yeah, he has such an ego that's the lens that he sees Superman's anger. He doesn't
Right,
understand that Superman is actually just a good person,
right.
completely, like just not
Selfless.
understanding what
Yeah.
is the fuck is going on with this guy who's just suddenly trying to destroy him.
And I think that's one of the great ironies of Lex, right? In this and at large, is that, especially in this movie, we can tie it to this movie directly. He says the line, I'm not dim. Like, that's such a great irony because he is very stupid when it comes to Superman. Like, idiotic, like, absolute moron.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because going back to masculinity, like Lex is like a very egotistical, like very book smart guy,
Yeah,
but he's just does not have a lot of emotional intelligence.
Well, and I mean, the term book smart implies that he doesn't have a practical experience with applying science. He does, absolutely, even in this movie.
Yeah, no, he does.
Yeah.
I mean, he knows the implications of what's going to happen to the world when he's opening up the portals.
Oh, he doesn't give a
But
shit. Yeah.
does he care? Yeah, no.
No. And also, okay, is it okay if I get into my main point?
Uh, well, actually, I did want to relate it to all the other like
Okay.
strong characters as well, because like
I know,
we
but I have one big thing, and then you get into the rest of the characters. One
I
big
could
thing. I
be
mean,
quick. I could be quick.
I'll be quick too. I don't. Whatever.
Uh,
Either way.
it's just like my point is so quick. I don't. But I was just gonna say like Guy Gardner, you know, strong, also like a stubborn male character, like
Yeah.
just has a lot of ego. And then also we see another foil to that, which is Mr. Terrific, which is an awesome character, and
Hmm.
he is like
God, I love
super
him.
confident, but he's not like showboaty about it. Even in his
No.
like even in his scene where he's like killing all those people, it's like showing off for us, but he's not like, doing dance moves and stuff. It's just he is super calm and collected and confident and just like, he is a perfect male representation of just what it looks like to be so self-assured in your body, being smart but not showing off all that smart.
Yeah. And I mean, like, if we want to briefly get into Mr. Terrific, I can talk about him for days, but I won't, of course. We don't have time. But yeah, like I love him. I've read a few of his comic runs, so yeah, I can talk about him a little bit. He's a very interesting character. Like, yeah, you could say, oh, well, he's a genius comic book character. There's so many of those. Yeah, but he is so unique in the way that he executes it. Like, yeah, okay, he's got his little T spheres, and they do like he's a brilliant engineer, brilliant scientist, brilliant mathematician, every like every field you could think of. He's like, like the DC equivalent of like your Bruce Banner or like one of them, So basically, he is he has very, very, very strict morals. In that way, he is like Superman. He believes in, as you can see on his jacket, which is absolutely an incredible detail for James Gunn to include. And I even love it that he doesn't feel the need to mention it at all in the movie. That's great. Like, and it'll come up eventually at some point, I'm sure, but it doesn't have to in this movie, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, the fair play is basically, Michael's moral compass. He really believes, that everyone deserves a level playing field. He doesn't believe in, yeah, like the obvious literal interpretation of that is he doesn't believe in fighting dirty, but it's not just that, right? He believes that it applies to every aspect of life. There should be fair play across the board. And he says that as, a genius billionaire, whatever, right?
Yeah, and that can also be part of why he helps Lois Lane when nobody else would.
Yes. He sees that she needs a fair shake and she's not getting one. And he connects with that immediately. And he's like, I have to be that fair shake for her.
Yeah.
I love that. That's a great character moment.
Yeah. Well, yeah, definitely the characters are just so spot on. And like James Gunn is definitely the best thing to happen for DC because the characters are where the bread and butter of the DC.
Absolutely. For Marvel, it's been said for decades, but Marvel's about the spectacle, DC's about the characters. And like that's been true for a while now.
I got you on the Mr. Terrific the that part of what you were gonna say. Well, what
Mhm.
else were you gonna say? Or I detracted you.
Yeah. I appreciate that. My one major point, you bringing up Lex, I have to get it out there. I think James Gunn could not have written Lex better for this movie. Because, like, think about it for a second. How do you make your Superman the most quote unquote intrinsically good version of Superman?
Right, an awful foil for him.
Exactly. Make the most evil, smug, shitty Lex Luthor you possibly could. And he did it in spades, and it's perfect. This is the most evil version of Lex Luthor by far. And yes, I'm including the animated series. I'm including, all the fucking ones with the comic runs where with Metallo and all that shit. I'm saying this guy is willing to fucking destroy the planet to one up this alien, who he knows, will survive and then he'll be able to run it in his face. Oh, you try to defend this planet, you can't even do that. Like, I feel like that was his end game with that. Like, really, without saying it ever. Because he just seems like that kind of shithead, right?
Yeah, I mean, for examples, there's plenty of examples. Like kidnapping his dog is one thing, but killing an innocent man who just
A
sold him
street
food
vendor.
once. Yeah,
A sweet, nice street vendor who just gave him food once.
yeah,
Jesus.
yep.
And
And
he's willing to kill a baby. He's willing to kill kids. He kill whoever right.
yeah, and usually I wouldn't be a fan of kind of like the joking way that he laughs it off afterwards, because of like the tonal dissonance that can sometimes cause. But
Right.
that is
It's
definitely part of Lex's attitude towards it.
oh yeah.
His
Oh yeah.
difference.
It's very Saturday morning cartoon, but it also works here, like you're saying. Yeah. Like it's very like maniacal villain, like what they parody, Doctor Evil in the Austin Powers movies, but it works here.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
it very seldom works, right? Like, let's
yeah,
be honest.
because a lot of the time the character isn't in mind when it's done. It's really just done to either raise the stakes or you know to make the villain look better. But here it's done with the personality of both Superman and Lex in mind. I mean, Superman is completely distraught by this. He was already distraught by his dog getting stolen and getting tortured. Now he sees this man suffering and dying, and he sees the guy he's sharing the cell with suffering as well.
Well, wait, let's take a quick step back psychologically. And I think you'll appreciate that.
Yeah,
So with Crypto, yeah, he was worrying about Crypto, and he was like, "Oh my God, you kidnapped my dog. What are you torturing my dog?" And then, yeah, like he sees Crypto is contained and chasing the virtual squirrels, and yeah, he's upset about that, but part of his brain, I think, goes, okay, so Crypto is safe and he's not actually being tortured. He's just, like being forced to exercise and whatever. And the dog is fine, right?
yeah,
So, like, part of him is, like that puts his mind at ease to an extent, right? And I think Lex did that on purpose because that's when he catches him off guard later by bringing the street vendor in and shooting him in the head, because he was not ready for that. He was not ready for the stakes to be that high.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
And that's a great villain moment for Lex.
Yeah, I mean, what Lex says afterwards, maybe I'll
Oh
catch
God.
someone you care about soon, like
Oh.
like Clark Kent. Like he's gonna go through everybody that
Yeah, he's going
he
scorched
knows.
earth, and he's going scorched earth, and Kal-El knows it.
Yeah,
Like Clark, he never goes by Kal-El in this, and that's fine. Like he doesn't have any I guess does Supergirl call him
I
Kal-El
I
at the end?
don't
I don't
I
remember.
don't I don't
I don't
remember,
think
but I
so.
mean, if she does, it says a lot more about his found family, like who he really connects with.
Right.
And, like we all have our found family. You saw my best man speech. Like,
Yeah.
I really connect more with that family and you, obviously,
Yeah.
than with my own parents. And if they got this far, sorry. Uh,
Mhm.
as my like found family, like anybody can be that could mean more to you
Yeah.
than the people that you grew up with, especially if I mean the way that they change in his eyes. I mean, he always had like not a lot to perceive them by. He just had that
Yeah.
video, but
The one
everything
video.
changes. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
do think that like that arc is shown really well with the end when he says like put on my put on my parents, and it shows his like growing up with his adopted family.
Yeah, I mean, it's also, I mean, that's a great analogy because it's also a hybrid situation like us, right? Like you've got me and Superman's got Kara,
Yeah, yeah.
So he does have family. It's just, he's got one family member close to, and we won't talk about the comics yet. So but yeah, like but we can talk about the clone. You want to talk about Ultraman a little bit?
Yeah, I so if you don't
Okay,
mind me leading
go
in
ahead.
with a question,
Go ahead.
how intelligent do you think this clone is? Because we do hear him speak, but he is basically controlled with fighting moves by Lex. Do you think that says more about him or more about Lex? Lex having so much ego that he's just telling this clone how to fight, or this clone not really knowing what to do by himself?
Oh, that's a great question. I love you, Billy.
Oh, I was thinking about this. Yeah, because I mean, it could go either way in my mind. It could say a lot more about Lex's ego, or this clone could actually have like his own will and be actually intelligent. But he could have gotten dumbed down by Lex just telling him what to do. Blah blah blah.
Right. Well, do you want me to posit my theory?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay. The way I see it, Ultraman has uh, an IQ above 70. Let's say that's the what's the what do you call it now? I'm not going to use the term they used, in the 90s.
I know what you mean. If that makes
Yeah.
you happy.
Yeah. Yeah. But for the audience, what do you call it now? If you know, like, I'm hoping you know.
I can't think of it.
Okay.
Um, maybe someone from the audience could tell us.
Mental incompetence, let's say like let's say 70 IQ is the baseline for mental incompetence, right? Above that you have your more cognitive abilities and speaking, and below that you don't, you're low functioning, right?
Yeah.
Let's say Ultraman is about 75, 80. Like he can speak, he can use basic words, he can't formulate like battle strategies or like complex thoughts. He is very basic, and like maybe he was designed that way, maybe that's just a side effect, we're not really sure.
Yeah.
It's not, we don't really get into that. But yeah, so Lex being Lex, like he realizes this early and, probably does a bunch of tests and has like, practice fights or, whatever. And like figures out, okay, I'm going to need to map out like extensive, like battle, strategies for this, like moves and, like everything, sequences. And I know, like he, plays it like a video game, really. Yeah, like 1A, 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 1A. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to button mash, you know?
Yeah,
But like that's interesting because in a way it says that Lex is treating this like a video game fight.
yeah. I was just thinking that too.
So what thoughts do you have on that? Like political implications or like anything?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think this really does go back to megalomaniac Lex Luthor, and really like I I think that it's interesting because I rewatched it recently too. When he is spamming the 1A, and that's all that like he's doing to Superman, that's the moment that like Superman kind of gets his chance to rebuttal. Especially because like
Right.
when he was mixing up his moves and really catching Superman off guard, Superman was just kind of like getting thrown around and just was like, not really able to, just think on his feet. But here he's just on the ground. He sees the little drone that's saying the thing over and over again. And, Superman wins with his intelligence, which, like, Lex just being the ego maniac asshole, like,
Yeah,
he really doesn't think that Superman is intelligent. So
right.
he's just,
Underestimates him like
yep,
he always does
yep,
every time. This
yep.
super genius. That's what I'm saying. He could be the most intelligent man who ever lived. When it comes to Superman, he is dumb as a bag of rocks.
Yeah, and I love seeing a Superman you know, um, who just uses his heart and his brain. It's not just, oh, I'm gonna punch my way through this. It's definitely not Scott Snyder's Superman at all.
Yeah, that's fair. No, what we know who Superman it is. It's heavily inspired by Grant Morrison's All-Star Superman, and you
Oh,
can
sorry,
tell.
Zack Snyder's Superman. I always fuck
Oh,
that up.
oh.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I don't remember Scott Snyder doing a Superman run. Scott Snyder's a
Yeah, I actually
is
like
not
Scott Snyder
related
a
to
lot.
Zack Snyder at all.
Yeah, I
He's
always
yeah,
fuck that up. There you
yeah,
go.
he's
See, I did it again.
no, you're good, you're good, you're good. I just want to clarify for the audience. Scott Snyder is the comic book writer who is best known for the Court of Owls Batman run, but he's done a bunch of other stuff that's great,
Oh yeah,
mostly for DC. Billy's read more of it than I have on
yeah. I like Scott.
it. But yeah, like we can briefly talk about the Zack Snyder Man of Steel if you want.
I mean, there is still so much to talk about here.
Yeah,
Yeah, and did you have anything else to say about that? Because I could go on another tirade for sure.
about like Lex and how I
Yeah,
guess
any of that.
all right. Well, I guess the only thing I would add with Lex that I think is interesting is his dynamic with his employees and with Eve. Eve Tessmacher, his
Yeah,
girlfriend, eventually ex-girlfriend.
yeah. Who he underestimates again.
Oh yes, he does do this thing where, like he tells other people not to condescend to him, but he is condescending to literally everyone, right?
Yeah,
So like yeah, so and that's exemplified in the fact that he just doesn't respect anyone. He treats everyone like dirt. He treats his girlfriend like dirt, takes her for granted, and then that bites him in the ass and ends up in jail, right?
yeah,
Prison, Belle Reve, if I recall correctly. Like according to the Suicide Squad, has one of the highest murder rates in the entire U.S. prison system. So like, what? Yeah, of course, Lex is fine. He's Lex. You know, he'll have like paid off guards, watching him 24/7. Or something because that's what he does. He
yeah,
takes advantage of like every setting he's in, every situation. He figures a workaround. And that's one of his, you know, one of his claims to genius is he doesn't take no for an answer, but he doesn't get petulant about it until, until he feels like he can. Right? It's for him, like he has a lot of emotions, a lot of very, very bad emotions, of course, but he doesn't let them cloud his judgment when he's in the planning phase, right? I'm not saying they don't cloud his judgment, they do a lot, but when he has, like he said, it took him 3 years to map out, all of those moves, to make sure Ultraman was up to the task, to, work out all the bugs, to plan this whole thing out, but he did it. And it's all set up. And that's when, he gets cocky, as he always does.
Yep, just spamming the 1A.
1A.
Well, yep.
Whoops. Brain beats brawn. I guess it does. Just not in the way that you thought.
Yeah, even to an extent also his grand plan of um with the invasion, and he really doesn't think that Superman can intercede again as well, but of course he's definitely forgot about like other superheroes who could intercede. And but I mean
Yeah.
obviously that goes because like Superman set the precedent for interceding in that conflict. If it wasn't for Superman, then probably nobody, they would have just been left to fend for themselves.
Right, because before then, the Justice Gang was too afraid to intervene, and
Yeah,
we aren't introduced to any other superhero teams at this point. As far as we know, it's just Maxwell Lord's Justice Gang. That's it.
yeah,
And that's just a working title, so they're pretty new too.
yeah. But I do think it's very interesting how this movie handles that conflict, especially in the beginning.
Yeah,
It says a lot about Superman's character and moral compass that he, I mean, and the movie makes a pretty good point of like, I mean, if if I had superpowers and I went to Israel and right now and I've like fought on either side of the conflict, the biggest thing that would come out immediately is that I'm an American and America has chosen a side, you know?
right, right.
And
And
that would
like that,
affect
you
everything.
know, exactly. And we find out later, via his interview, which is a great bit of exposition. Thanks, James Gunn. That was great. Um, but his interview with Lois, we find out that like he didn't intend to represent the U.S., but as Lois says, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
He is a U.S. figure, whether he wants to be or not. He was raised in Kansas, and like we don't, we know that as the audience and the comic readers and obviously the viewers, but like obviously the world doesn't know that yet.
Yeah, but it just goes to show that like and in part a moral good in the world can't be impartial, unfortunately. That's just not how politics works. Like
Right.
you can't just go in and save people and then like, not look at who you saved, because then they're going to look at your nationality and it's going to become part of that and who you are fighting for and who America's fighting for. And then even that like gets thrown at you because at that point he he's like an enemy of the state because of what he's done and because of Lex
Yeah.
Luthor
Yeah.
slandering his name. And
Yeah.
then he tries to do the moral right thing again, which is turn himself in. And at that point he's still not winning. Like this
No.
is like the best man doing all the right things, and that's why he's so like betrodden, so downtrodden at the end of the. Sorry, wow, so
Downtrodden.
like downtrodden. I'm mixing up words. I'm an idiot. Downtrodden at the end of the movie because he's trying to do the right thing, and it's just nothing feels right.
Right. And that feels so much, and I hate to slander, the Richard Donner movie, but like that rings so much more true to life to me than like, him just being, bubbly sunshine all the time
Yeah,
and everything, like okay, like he's stopped a missile and there's the whole crisis with that. But like, like there is some peril and there's the stuff, but still it just feels hollow to me. And I think this is why, because this feels more lived in. This feels truer to life, and that there's these real concerns and real complications that aren't just a simple fix.
yeah,
It's not always as simple as like getting the kryptonite necklace off and fleeing the pool and stopping the missile, before it hits Hackensack, New Jersey, of all fucking places. You know, oh, that's where Miss Tessmacher's mother lives.
yeah.
It's so
Well,
silly.
if you spoke a little bit about the other iterations of the Superman and
Yeah,
about animated Superman. He's my second favorite
yeah, that's
iteration
fair.
because he shows, when Lex Luthor is really like pissing him off, and like it shows like a real frustration for him trying
Yeah,
to do the right thing, and Shazam is just. He's just a baby. He don't understand the American
yeah.
politics. He's
He's
like,
a fucking
step
teenager.
down.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but I think that's the other show or movie, uh,
You're
other
thinking
best
Justice League.
iteration.
Yeah, yeah,
Huh?
yeah. But like I said you were thinking
Justice
of like
League. Yeah,
Justice League. I believe that is specifically Justice League Unlimited, but it doesn't matter. Uh,
it's all one for me.
yeah, that's fair. They're both good. Um, but like, yeah, yeah. I think that is like yeah, the animated Superman in all the animated movies, like especially in the '90s, the late '90s. I think is great. Superman is very well done in that series and that media, if you want to get technical. Because yeah, like it highlights his quote unquote Boy Scout persona, but it also humanizes him, grounds him. And I think that's what a lot of the we're going to get comments on this. Snyder Bros don't understand. Like it's not just about him being the ultimate good. It's about him being the ultimate symbol of humanity. And you can't do that if he doesn't display humanity. And I think
Yeah.
that's where
Yes.
I think that's where the Jesus allegory of the Man of Steel falls apart, because that iteration of Superman and Kal-El and Clark Kent doesn't really feel human at all. He feels like a god throughout the entire movie. And like that's interesting, but it's not
Also a
Superman.
dick in some weird places too. Like him smashing
Yeah,
up that dude's truck. Like what the fuck?
yeah, that I mean, I think that's a reference to Superman 2. So I mean, that's
Okay. All right. My bad.
yeah, 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 yeah. So like,
but
yeah, okay, that's Richard Donner's fault. It's not Snyder's fault.
But yeah, I like you saying that, like articulating it that well, especially when we see him, you know, to a fault do some of these things, like to a fault intervene and not understand the natural consequences of that, or even like turn himself in. Was that really the best move? Honestly, probably not. No, but
But it
he
felt
really
right to
didn't
him.
understand what he was up against.
Yeah,
He
and like,
really thought that other people would be as good as him or would try to be as good as him.
yeah, I mean, he is right. But, he's wrong about the time, right?
He's wrong about what? You cut out
The
for me.
time, the timing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
because at the end, yeah, there's the support from obviously Emporians, but also the U.S. Government turns on Lex Luthor when they find he's a traitor
Yeah.
of the highest order, and some people are even calling for execution. He is no longer popular. But like one quick aside before we get too far in the weeds on that is that I don't hate Man of Steel. I really don't. I think it's a really interesting movie. I think, I really like the hard sci-fi aspects of it. I think Russell Crowe is interesting as Jor-El, and there are definitely some cool things about it. I don't think it's, you know, I do think Batman versus Superman has got awful by that story, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, but yeah, let's move on. What other thoughts do you have about this movie?
Um. Yeah. I mean, I guess the last thing we really haven't touched on, or one of the last things, is just um the politics of Lex's plan. Um.
Okay.
And it's funny. It's always about like I feel like in the previous movies, it's all about some like crazy real estate scheme. Um.
Yes,
And
always, always,
in
literally
order to
always.
make billions and billions of dollars.
Yeah. The like we were saying, the animated stuff is varies on that a little bit, and in some places wildly, but um yeah, because in those Lex Luthor's motivation is usually revenge or like some direct vendetta against Superman because it's the
Y-
cartoon.
Yeah, but I liken this, and I didn't expect this. I expected his sole motivation to really just be on Superman, but really he uses the Superman part of it to help his own narrative and help him get part of what he wants, and then also he's helping this other dictator by bolstering his like role and
Gorkos,
trying. What's his name?
Vasil Gorkos.
Did you
The
Are you looking
Gorkos.
at Wikipedia?
No, I just remember it. It's a weird
That's
ass name.
fucking crazy, dude.
I, I remember stupid shit sometimes. Doesn't matter.
But
I
yeah,
like that actor though. He was great in Wonder Man. Okay,
oh,
continue.
he's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like just trying to get his own slice of the pie by helping others who are also just egotistical madmen. And it's not even that he agrees with this guy. It really, they don't have any chemistry together. He seems like he hates this guy, but he's just
Oh
using him.
yeah.
He just
Yeah.
uses everyone.
See, yeah. That's the interesting part of the dynamic is that Gorkos like really idolizes
Yeah.
like
Oh, you're cutting out again for me.
like he really idolizes Lex Luthor and looks up to him and like takes follows his lead on like almost everything.
Yes.
And like Lex thinks he's a little dog shit piece of shit.
Yes.
Just another sycophant, right? Just
Yeah.
anyone. Because that's Lex.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lex
Lex.
could be, in a room with the most powerful man on the planet. In fact, we see him in the room with the most powerful man on the planet, and he doesn't flinch. He
Yeah.
doesn't flinch when the dog is like throwing him around the room, like, well, of course he panics then and he freaks out and he's yelling because he thinks the dog is going to kill him, probably. But, like, obviously we know Superman happen. He doesn't necessarily, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that brings up like his other argument that Superman isn't an American to him either. Like Superman isn't a part of the Earth. He's just an alien, and it's just another reason for him to look down on another person. You know, he's always gonna have
Yeah.
his own reason to look down on people. Like I've heard people like I've heard people like our parents just be racist and look down on people just for the most silliest, stupidest reasons. And it's like it feels like there's always another reason. You know, like you sometimes you're just not going to respect other people, and you should just say that. Like I just don't like other people, or I just tolerate other
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. I totally get where you're coming from.
I do think that's part of the reason why Lex like doesn't like Superman is like that he isn't an alien, that he is stronger, that he is super powered, but innately he just doesn't like other people also.
Right, right. He is a misanthrope. He just hates humanity.
Yep. Yeah, he just wants to be at the top of humanity. Uh, the megalomaniac brilliant mind.
But like any good billionaire, CEO and founder of Luther Corp, in contrast to what it's normally known as LexCorp, but like that's a minor thing that like doesn't really matter. It's probably just James Gunn's way of differentiating this from the other, DC adaptations, and that's fine. But like, I guess my point is, he is a shrewd businessman. He knows what he wants. He knows he needs other people, right? Because
Yeah.
he's an intelligent businessman. And like he knows, like as any good billionaire knows, he needs to exploit the working class, and he absolutely does that in every way imaginable, every way he possibly can, right?
For fucking sure.
Including including destroying their homes like nonchalantly, just like most of the fucking city is demolished, and he doesn't know that Mr. Terrific is gonna fix everything. He doesn't know that, right? But there's one major thing I want to get to that we
Yeah, go
haven't
ahead.
talked about at all. We haven't talked about Lois Lane.
Oh yes, yeah, go ahead.
No, what thoughts do you have on her?
I just think it was well, isn't this just the case? Talking about a woman and immediately relating her to the man that she's with. But I love that like they you know have established them as this situationship immediately starting out. That like I think that was a pretty base choice, and it's interesting to see them just kind of falling in love with each other, like in this situationship where they have feelings for each other, but they're still stepping on each other's toes. They're still pressing each other's buttons, and triggering the
Yeah,
other
yeah.
without really
It's
realizing it.
right. It's early on in the relationship. Unfortunately, they didn't really get a right. No honeymoon phase for them.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's like very again, it feels very real. It rings true to me. It because it's the relationships in real life are hard. They're hard work, And this relationship is hard work. They fight a lot. They are a little toxic to each other at points. And like that's very real. Like because that's, like you can talk about, toxicity in relationships, but it's always there to an extent, like even in the best relation. You're going to say the wrong thing at some point, you're going to lash out. And like, if it's a good relationship, you'll apologize and you'll, not do it again and you'll move on. But like, those mistakes are still going to happen, right? We're human.
yeah,
And,
and
and that just ties into the theme of the movie.
for sure. I and I think Lois, Lois is an extremely perceptive, smart person, and she's, you know, she really doesn't take things at face value. She likes to investigate. I mean, it's her job. So, but I think part of that is she feels like there's a catch with Superman, and she's kind of incredulous. Like she sees someone who really wants to help, who's doing so many good things, who's like cooking for her, and she's thinking, "Is there a catch? Like this guy can't be all this
Right,
super good. Like he
right.
has to. He seems naive, or he seems like he has something seems dubious." And I think it's not really until she meets his, adopted parents that she really does realize, no, he is just a genuinely amazing person.
He really is obsessed with the mighty crab joys. It's not just an act. He's got a fucking poster. She's like, "What?"
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that's a great
That's that
character
moment.
moment too because she smiles and she has the warmest smile and it's so cute and it's so loving. I love that. And I
Yeah.
mean, like Rachel Brosnahan acts the hell out of this movie. They all do.
Oh yeah, yeah. Her character, and it's interesting because I don't really feel like she has a lot of screen time here, but she really does have her own arc, and in a great way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And like it's a pure romance arc in some ways, and like she also has a good character arc. In in other ways. But like I want to focus on a romance arc for just a second because yeah, they go from like bickering and struggling to almost breaking up
Yeah,
to at the end that beautiful scene, where they're in the air and whirling around and just embracing and kissing. It's wonderful. It's so
yeah,
pure and so sincere and something that only could execute so perfectly, in my opinion.
yeah. It feels like they finally understand each other and accept and love each other at this point, and they're gonna just, you know, take whatever battles may come because they realize, if you're dating Superman, some crazy fucked up shit is gonna happen.
Right, right.
What did you think of Jimmy Olsen? Our Jimmy Olsen who doesn't just
Mhm.
die immediately,
Oh
like
my God.
Man of Steel.
I'm CIA.
Jimmy Olsen, who actually is believably one of
Yeah,
Superman's best friends.
yeah. Like what? Or yeah, we're not getting into did a little bit of Man of Steel dirt, so
I'm CIA.
I'm CIA. Yeah, but like yeah, Jason is again like a wonderfully fleshed out character, a wonderful love letter to the character because yeah, he is not just Jimmy Olsen, he is Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen. Like there's a comic one. It's kind of funny. Yeah, it was big in the 70s. But like and I've read some of it. It's fun. Yeah, but like Jimmy Olsen is like basically the heart of Superman's team, right? He is sincere, he is wholesome, and like this does an interesting take on that, right? Like he is not just like a photographer like he normally is. He is also an investigator, and like he's got a source. He's got Eve, and that becomes the linchpin for the entire article that Lois is writing. So yeah, Jimmy is very important to this narrative, and it feels true to the comics in a way that we really haven't gotten in a Superman adaptation before, honestly.
Yeah,
Th-
yeah, and I really like how it's the article that blows up everything with Lex, which makes them all just as equally as important as Superman.
Right, right, right.
Yeah, and that beautiful scene where like Superman's arguing with Lex and saying that I'm just a guy. that's when Lex is seeing like the news footage of like his entire empire crumbling down.
Yeah. And speaking of a guy, let's talk about Guy Gardner. Very
Oh yeah.
uh, oh my God. You know, but the audience doesn't necessarily that Green Lantern is my favorite DC property. I love all the Green Lanterns. I've read almost all of the runs, honestly. I'm a super fan. And Guy Gardner, I'm going to say, as a subject matter expert on Green Lantern, that the Guy Gardner in this is so good. Nathan Fillion does a great job. James Gunn does a great job. Oh my God, yeah, he's an asshole. But yeah, like you said earlier, but he also has a heart of gold. And that's important to the character. Yes, he's a jerk. He's rough around the edges. He doesn't play nice with others. He picks fist fights. He's an Irish hothead. But at the end of the day, he's going to come through and do the right thing. He is a superhero. He's an anti hero. But, like, so is Batman.
I think that's why um Guy intervening and you know helping in that conflict, and then at the end, and his middle finger construct hitting the tank. It's just that's perfect characterization for him.
Well, let's even roll it back before that. When they first find out about the devastating second half of the video, and the Justice Gang confronts Superman, and they all go into the bank together or whatever that building is, and what does Guy do? People, there's looky loos outside, and Guy uses a ring to construct a green filter over the glass so they can't see in. That is fantastic. Like there's so much subtext there that I don't think some people realize that. Like it's so. Like there's the obvious, like he's like, okay, we're like this is a distraction, we're cutting this out, but it also shows that, like, even when he assumes the worst of Superman, he is willing to block out everything else to hear him out with the others. Like he doesn't immediately clap him in chains and say, turn him in. He's like, all right, let's all stand here. Fuck everyone, fuck the entire rest of the world. We're gonna hear Superman out, and that is Guy.
Yeah, yeah. Guy definitely doesn't just, you know, he doesn't just agree with the mainstream, and that's what makes him so interesting. He has his own point of view, his own like just trying to understand things. Um, which is why it's like funny when he calls Superman a wuss for like trying to save a creature or something like that. He's definitely just like fuck what everybody else is thinking right now. I'm gonna hear from your mouth. Are you good or are you bad? Tell me now. If you're bad, we're gonna fucking fight right here.
Right, right, right. And that is funny because that is totally Guy too. Like, he's ready for a. He doesn't care that Superman.
Yeah, yeah.
he's
I,
he's ready he's ready to tussle all the time.
yeah, he's ready to punch Batman in the face.
Oh yeah, it's funny. Batman's punched him in the face in the comics. It's an iconic scene. Also, I think we should briefly mention Hawkgirl, although I don't think she's very fleshed out in this, but she like she just adds a little flavor to the Justice League. She has her quips, and of course, she has her moment where she kills Gurkos.
That's her best character moment for me. That's
Yeah.
when I think about Hawkgirl and this. Um, and
Mhm.
like my only other exposure to Hawkgirl is the Justice League, um, Unlimited and show. And honestly, that goes perfectly with my perception of Hawkgirl from that show.
Oh yeah, because that's faithful to Hawkgirl, and this is faithful to Hawkgirl. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
For the people that are like Hawkgirl wouldn't kill, what the fuck?
yeah, like
She's a soldier. She has no problem with killing. She ain't Superman, like she says.
oh yeah, like the politics that like Superman tries to tiptoe around and tries to be cognizant of and still messes up sometimes. Like he beats himself up over that. Hawkgirl's gonna kill this fucking dictator and sleep nicely like that night. She doesn't give a fuck.
Oh yeah, but like, okay, let's briefly get into that because that is important. That has long-lasting consequences, and we know that now after Peacemaker 2, season 2 is out, has been out for a while. So yeah, we can briefly get into that current perspective, right? Just a little bit.
Yeah,
So like, my God, that like, okay, so like, yeah, that was a very hard, and she felt like she did the right thing, and it did end the conflict, right? At least, that part of the conflict. The other part was ended by, Jimmy, Lois and Jimmy, coming down on and Eve,
yeah,
coming down on Lex. But so I guess my point is that like Flag Senior uses this basically as an excuse to move forward on the salvation thing, mostly in his head and his motivation being the revenge for his son's death, right?
yeah,
So what are the political implications of that? Basically, you have you know a shadow branch of the military being run by this guy hell bent on a vendetta, one superhero or anti-hero.
yeah. And that could be your
Peacemaker.
personal bias, and
Yeah,
obviously some people know that bias and he'll just share that proudly with them, but he's got his own real world reasons, or he can establish real world reasons, like Hawkgirl killing a dictator, or like
yes,
Superman intervening in a
yes,
conflict.
yeah,
You know, it's kind of like the Sokovia Marvel stuff all over again, where it's like,
yeah,
we are afraid of these people, and he's using people's fear against people who are just trying to protect you. And
right.
like Hawkgirl definitely has her, you know, she might not be right to you, but killing a dictator, how is that? That should be empirically good, you know? Sure, it can create a
Yeah,
power vacuum,
yeah,
but
and it does.
yeah, and it will.
Yeah,
But it just goes to show, like, what is really the government doing in this situation? Well, you're actually kind of making things worse because you're enabling this dictator. You're allying with him because of Lex, and now that he's gone, you're going to be allied against these superpowered people who are just trying to help.
like J. Edgar Hoover, like you know, being obsessed with MLK, Martin Luther King Jr., and like aggressively tapping his phones and threatening to reveal to his wife that like he was having an affair, so he told her first and she forgave him. Like, and that of course led to conspiracy theory that honestly I think is true, that he orchestrated the assassination.
Mhm.
But like
Yeah,
obviously we don't have to get into that because, but just
yeah. No, I know how you feel about that. And
Yeah, and
honestly,
you know enough of the details that and like yeah, like the audience is probably curious what but like it's not maybe I'll talk about it if we do an episode on the Oliver Stone movie JFK or something,
yeah, I mean that would be a perfect place to talk about it.
Yeah, hell yeah. Or even if we did like X or something,
Yeah,
the Spike Lee movie on Malcolm X. Yeah.
yeah.
So something like that. We'll talk about it.
I mean,
It doesn't fit here.
yeah. There's a lot to talk about with Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. Actually, I'd
Oh yeah.
love to have Andrew on if we talk about X, because Andrew, we got into like a verbal thing about it recently. Just Andrew definitely does not like Martin Luther King and abides by you know Malcolm X's standpoint on all that.
Oh, very interesting. Okay, yeah, we could get into all that. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I certainly already have opinions. Yeah, so all right. So final thoughts about this movie. Let's talk about the engineer. We haven't talked at all.
Oh my God, there's always more that we haven't talked about.
I'd say let's wrap it there. I think that's the last,
Who's the engineer?
the engineer, the
Oh,
nanobots chick.
oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, she's the chick that she's supposed to be from the Authority, right?
yeah, she's from the Authority.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. There's not a lot to say about her. I love the fight scene with her and Superman, where like the nanobots go his into his mouth and everything. I just love like that James Gunn has a little bit of like a horror from his background,
Yeah,
like Slither, and
yeah.
he's not afraid to show shit like that.
Oh yeah. No, yeah, yeah. James Gunn is good at body horror.
Yeah,
He doesn't feel the need to use it as a gimmick, I feel, but he knows how to, right?
yeah, yeah. And the engineer is a perfect like way to show that she's such a versatile, and interesting fighter.
Right. Yeah, she is no holds barred. She
Yeah,
believes that she's on a virtuous mission. She thinks that, she buys into the Lex bullshit narrative that Superman is evil, an evil alien that needs to be destroyed. So she fully drinks the Kool-Aid. She completely donates her body to Lex, and he, infuses it with nanites, and like she even says that she no longer feels human, and that's really sad, but it's also true to the character of the engineer from you know the Authority, which I have read, um and it's great. I recommend it, and I hope they still do the movie. I haven't heard anything lately.
they canceled it.
They did. Oh, that sucks.
Yeah,
I mean, I
I
get
thought
it.
you were joking when you said that.
No, I didn't say that. No, I'm not always up to date. I try to be, but I'm not.
I'm sure they could, always move it towards another time and place. I'm
Sure, sure.
thinking, especially with the merger shit, like
Yeah,
maybe they
who
need
knows.
to get Batman out there faster and stuff that's going to make more money out there faster.
Yeah, yeah. Well, at least Clayface is coming.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, I'm
the
psyched
Batman
about
2
that.
is coming out next year, I think,
Hell yeah.
or the year after. I don't remember. But yeah, Clayface is coming out this year, and yeah, I'm psyched about it too. It looks good. The trailer looks good. But yeah. Any closing thoughts?
No, I think we successfully tackled everything. I think that like
I, I would have
this,
liked to talk about more Metamorpho a little bit, but we really wrap up.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't really see the lot to talk about here for him. I think
Mhm.
maybe in another movie we'll get more of his character, but
That's fair.
um, I think like all the main characters were fleshed out super well, and
Oh yeah,
seeing like Superman and like getting
Lois.
just a little bit of like his alien background,
Yeah.
but like what's most important is his human distinct personality traits,
Yes.
and they nailed that shit.
Is kindness the new punk rock?
Yeah, kindness is the new punk rock.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and like that's definitely a good note to end on because
Mm,
you know kindness is not the mainstream, especially
yeah.
how he sees it, especially when it comes to like Lex. Like he wants it to be the mainstream. He believes in his heart that it should be, but it's not.
Right. Well, and I think it's also important because this came out, especially even now, but especially then. The right was doubling down on demonizing empathy. So, then and that means it's becoming unpopular to be empathetic. So, yeah, I guess it is punk rock to be kind then, right?
Hell yeah.
Counterculture kindness. Let's fucking go. Fuck them. All right, we've been talking about Superman 2025, written and directed by James Gunn, starring Corin Sweat, Rachel Brosnahan, Nicholas Holt, Edie Gathegi, Anthony Kerrigan, Nathan Fillion, and Isabella Merced. All right, Billy, good episode. Hope you have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.
Do 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 do. Da, da, da. This is your outro music.